Since the 1500s, Spain started to colonize Argentina and often fought with Britain over control of this land in the 1800s. This caused the people of Argentina to fight and win for its independence. Argentina became a unified nation in 1862 after a few years debating about having a centrist government or a federal government. After a military coup that ruled Argentina in 1943, Juan Domingo Perón emerged as a leader and became president in 1946. However, he was overthrown in 1955. After a series of military and elected governments, Perón returned to power in 1973, but died in 1974. Therefore, his third wife Isabel was left in charge. Isabel Perón named Rafael Videla as commander-in-chief, and he began to reorganize the military leadership. She was kicked out of power by the military on March 24, 1976, which caused a 7-year-long dirty war. Jorge Rafael Videla became the leader of the country. As Argentina's new president, Videla faced a government that was corrupted due to a collapsing economy such as soaring inflation and a society under armed assault from both left-wing guerrillas such as the ERP and right-wing Peronist groups. Videla suspended Congress and gave legislative powers to a 9-man military commission. Also, he halted the functioning of the courts, political parties, and labor unions, and also filled all key government posts with military personnel. During this time, between 10,000 to 30,000 civilians were killed or disappeared with government's approval, since President Jorge Rafael Videla tortured and murdered any people that were suspected of being left-wing guerrillas. The new military government targeted many civilians. Men and women of all ages were abducted by security forces and were taken to one of the 360 hidden detention centers or camps in the country. Many were tortured and victims were killed in extrajudicial executions and buried in collective unmarked graves. Some were thrown to the sea from airplanes while still alive. About 10,000 people have been reported as desaparecidos or disappeared. However, human rights organizations claim that the real estimate reaches 30,000. Due to the unknown fate of the children in Argentina, many of the mothers with other human rights supporters stood as a civilian resistance to the military government. The Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo formed on April 30, 1977. The leader of the formed group of mothers, Hebe de Bonafini, said about her son, "When Jorge disappeared, my first reaction was to rush out desperately and look for him. I didn't want to read anything about what was happening, just search, search, search. Then I realized we had to look for all of them and that we had to be together because together we were stronger." This group was formed since many mothers were searching for their children in military barracks and waited in government ministries. They got together because they realized that they needed a support and pressure group. They wanted to resist the military government, the junta, under the rule of President Videla. The mothers met in churches and in the square, the Plaza de Mayo, in front of the presidential palace. They gathered to share information and made flyers to post on buses and subway trains at night. They also wore white scarves, which remained a symbol of resistance throughout the dictatorship, as they marched around the plaza each Thursday. The mothers held regular marches and meetings, often stopping police from raising their weapons by singing the national anthem. Due to the 1978 World Cup soccer tournament, there was international attention on Argentine human rights abuses. Through this, the Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo were introduced to the world. In the Hartford Courant newspaper that was published on June 18, 1978, it tells people to remember that millions in Argentina live in daily terror of their government.
Therefore, there was international pressure on the Argentine government, which played a crucial role. Even a soccer player, Agostino de Bartolome, on the Italian World Cup soccer team, signed the Amnesty International petition for the people of Argentina that are being taken away by the military. The Hartford chapter of the Amnesty International joined with thousands of other human rights advocates around the world to send telegrams to General Videla, the leader of the junta, to stop the torture and executions. The mothers of the Plaza de Mayo were never able to find their children and get them back. However, they were able to continue to resist the military government, and due to the help of the defeat of the Argentine plan to take over the British Falkland Islands, many people elected Raúl Alfonsín in 1983, which resulted in the return of civilian rule. Donations from abroad allowed the Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo to become a legally constituted organization on August 22, 1979, and to open offices in Buenos Aires. Also, after Raúl Alfonsín took over in 1983, the newly elected government established a National Commission on the Disappeared, CONADEP, to investigate the activities of the military during the proceso. The politicians sought to placate the military in order to ensure a stable transition to democracy. The Alvesine government passed 2 laws that limited the extent of punishment the guilty would face, and in December 1989, the new president, Carlos Saúl Menem, pardoned several of the worst perpetrators of torture. The new Argentine government was affected positively because they were able to create laws that favored their views in order to have a smooth transition from the military government to a democracy. They were able to limit the punishment for the guilty of this war. Some mothers of the Plaza de Mayo were upset that the guilty did not receive enough punishment for what they did to others. The mothers of the Plaza de Mayo became divided over how to respond to the government's efforts. The majority, Bonafide and other individuals, believed that it was just confirming and detailing the death was not enough. They wanted the guilty to pay for their crimes. Therefore, Bonafide has continued to pressure the government to punish those that are responsible. She ignored Alfonsine and Menem's criticisms of her and the mothers, believing that the pluralist democracy should accept conflicting opinions. Since the mothers of the Plaza de Mayo took a stand against the military government, they became an international symbol of resistance to one of the cruelest regimes in Latin America. As mothers, they presented a powerful moral symbol which over time transformed them from women seeking to protect their children to women wishing to transform the state so that it reflected maternal values. Madres organizations, which use similar nonviolent techniques to speak truth to power, were formed in other authoritarian governments, which also had people disappear, such as Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, and Uruguay in the mid-1970s. The Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo shows how a movement can have a huge impact on society. Many people around the world became aware of human rights violations in Argentina due to the marches that these mothers had around the plaza every Thursday. It also brought international awareness to all military governments, since they could easily violate human rights. Up to 30,000 people were tortured and disappeared during this military rule. Therefore, this helps all countries in the world not to make the same mistake again. A letter to our children. Over and over they said, "They are terrorists. They must be up to something. They must be wiped out." But when many believed nothing was going to stand in the way, we went on the streets and to the world to fight for their lives.